What up, watch peeps? A little bling is what makes a great skin diver. What is a skin diver? I don't know, but I like to think of them as small divers that you can wear to the beach during the day and then out to dinner later that night. Let's not forget that out to dinner part because that's important, and today's watch nails it. So let's take a look. I'm Pete and we are chilling with watches. Wrist check, I am wearing the Night Diver. You know, I just did a video of the build for this watch, but if you remember at the end, I said I wanted to put a different dial and handset in it. This is that different dial and handset. Man, I gotta say, I love the way this thing turned out. That is a full Lume dial, so this thing lights up kind of bonkers at night. Really cool watch. Love this little build, 36 millimeters. But we're here to check out our first Seals Watch Co. watch. And pretty cool packaging. They come in a little pouch, and in the pouch you have your watch roll. It's actually a really nice watch roll. And there's a bunch of other goodies in here too. I can't remember what it was. There's a nice spring bar tool. You got your thank you card, some stickers, cool coaster. And then I guess you got what you consider to be, I don't know if it's your warranty card. Yeah, I guess it's your warranty card, signed, dated, all that good stuff. So this watch roll is really nice. Like I said, it's canvas, feels like that kind of waxed canvas with a leather strap on. It reminds me very much of the early Zelos watch rolls. Really nice, got a leather tag on it there. Soft inside. And inside you will find, well, there's not a whole lot because your warranty card was over here. So I just have my extra links in there. It did come with an extra strap. FKM, I've actually featured these on the channel before. Really nice FKM strap, fits this watch well, suits it well. But what we really want to see is this watch. Check this guy out. This is a super pretty, I guess it's a sport watch. I still kind of think of it as a skin diver, but what we're looking at here is their storm gray colorway. This thing comes in 4 different colors. There's also a silver and black that are a little more textured dials, and then there is a seafoam. And I'll tell you what, if you are interested in colorful dials, but like the pastels and the Tiffany blue are just a little too much for you, go check out their seafoam because it is understated and classy. It just might be what you're looking for. Now these guys, just like I said, this is a 38 millimeter fixed bezel sports watch built on the chassis of their 38 millimeter diver with the rotating bezel. And these come with a full retail price of $650. Now this storm gray model has a really nice matte gray dial that only has a very slight texture to it that's really only visible under magnification. It just looks like a matte gray in most lighting. Logo and text on this one, very minimal. I really like the font choices here. I think they're simple and basic. They kind of complement. They go really well with this watch. Date, I chose a no date version. These are available with date, and they do use the Miyota 9039, so it's a true no date. You don't have any phantom date position. Now the markers, take a look at these guys. These are big, shiny, polished hour markers, and I absolutely love them. They have a lot of facets to them, and they catch the light in all sorts of crazy ways. But as far as the Lume goes, what you'll see is there are Lume dots on the hours out there in the minute track, and then you have Lume on the hands, obviously. Speaking of the hands, these seem to be a little bit polarizing. A little hate tossed their way because of how thick they are. But I got to tell you, the hands are one of the things that sold me. I love chunky hands in general, but these here take an otherwise maybe overly serious watch and give it a well-needed and placed spot of fun, you know, a bit of whimsy, if you will. But either way, they are rhodium plated and filled with C3 Lume, so high quality hands no matter how you slice it. This is one of the coolest crystals I've seen lately. It really has that, it captures that acrylic look with modern durability. It's a low dome. You'll see it doesn't sit up too high, but it does add about 2 millimeters. Now it appears to be a double dome because you'll see in the middle there's no distortion on the hands, but you do get that kind of acrylic effect, and you can really see it here where it really distorts around the edges. I think they did a great job of getting that vintage kind of acrylic look with a nice modern sapphire crystal. So this being the fixed bezel version of their Sea Storm skin diver, and sometimes going from a rotating dive bezel to a fixed bezel results in a chunky or misproportioned sport watch, but not here. This case really suits the fixed bezel. I really think it's a nice thickness to the bezel compared to the dial and the case. And if we take a look at this bezel, you'll see it is polished on all three sides, meaning kind of that vertical, the flat, and then the 45-degree. All polished, offering a really nice contrast to the brushed lug tops and the matte dial. Then you have just that shine from the bezel and the hands. Really good job on that. Now this is a fantastic case. Seals obviously does a higher level of finishing on their cases, and you can see it here in this brushing, but more specifically, look at the shape and the tapering of these polished chamfers on the edges. See how they start thicker down at the end of the lugs and they taper to thin by the middle of the case, and then they flare back out. Really well done. It's super clean. Look how nice and tight the lines are. Just the finishing is spectacular on this watch. The brushing is really high quality too. You'll see it creates a really nice grain on the case sides and on the top of the lugs as well. Now the side profile is pretty much spot on for me. Everything is very proportionate, and what I mean by that is the thickness of the mid case as compared to the bezel, as compared to the case back, they all match up really well. Nothing looks overly slabby or thick. Now this isn't an overly thin watch at 13 millimeters, but that is total including the crystal. It's 11.1 if you exclude the crystal. So the curvature of this mid case wears so good, and it sits so close, and the case back you'll see is kind of tucked up underneath there. And so the way it sits on your wrist, it feels like a thinner watch than it actually is. We have a 6.7 millimeter crown, and this crown has a grip that just, it gives you a reminder that this is also a tool watch. Just a really cool, easy to use crown. Again, I said it's a true no date, so there's no phantom date position. You just have your time setting. It is a really nice signed crown as well. Flipping it over to take a look at the case back, and this one is a little quirky. And when I first saw it, I thought maybe they sent me a prototype by accident. I actually reached out to Michael to ask. And this is not a loaner. I actually bought this watch. So I asked Michael about it, and no, it's not a mistake. He had a cool story about how passing from prototype to giving the green light for production on the different components is one of his favorite parts of building watches, and this is intended to be a nod to that, and in that light I think it's pretty cool. And you'll see here it has quick release end links. I love that. I want that on all my watches now. It just makes strap changing so easy. Now one thing to note here is that the spring bar holes, the gap between the spring bar holes and the case is really tight. So that is great when you're dealing with straight end link bracelets. They look fantastic on here, and even straps look fantastic because everything sits super close to the case. There's no kind of unsightly gap where you can see your wrist through. But if you're going to try and put a thick strap on there, there's a good chance it will not fit. So this comes on a fully articulating H-link bracelet, and it is a really nice one. The edges of the links, if you can see here, are chamfered and polished on all the edges, like the tops, the bottoms, and even the sides, which just makes for really nice smooth motion and a really comfortable feel on your wrist as well. Now, I'm not normally a fan of polished center links, like you see these polished links on the H's are here, but they totally work on this watch. They complement the hour markers really nicely, and they provide, again, just a little bit more of that flashiness that I really want to see on skin divers. Taper-wise, goes from 20 down to 18, only a 2 millimeter taper. I always like 4, but on this one, I've found that the thicker bracelets provide a welcome counterweight to so that the watch doesn't feel top heavy. It does use screws to size the links. They are thinner, they're not like 1.4s, so they can be a little bit fiddly. And that brings us to the clasp. And here's my only real complaint about this watch. I freaking hate butterfly clasps. Yeah, the continuity of the bracelet looks super cool, but who cares about that when you can't get a good fit? There's no micro adjust, and inevitably, I mean every single time, it's either too tight or too loose. I had to settle for it fitting great when my wrist is unswollen when I first put it on, but if I'm moving around and my wrist swells up a little bit, it gets a little tight on me. And here is how that Miyota 9039 is running on the Timegrapher. Seems to have settled in at about a very solid +8. 270, a very expected, nice healthy amplitude. 0.3 beat error, underneath what I would ever care about. And I think that's a perfectly fine accuracy for this movement. Going over the dimensions, we are looking at a 38mm case, and that is 38mm on the nose, as are all of these measurements, which I appreciate for some strange reason. It is 46mm lug to lug, and it comes in 13mm thick, including that sapphire crystal. It has a 20mm lug width. Going over some of the other specs, we are looking at a really nice, beautiful sapphire crystal. It uses C3 lume on the dial and hands. It's running the no date Miyota 9039 movement, and it has 150 meters of water resistance. Now on this OEM H-Link bracelet size for my 7¼ inch wrist, it came in at 148 grams. And here is how it wears on my 7¼ inch wrist. As you can see, that mid-case shape, that curvature, it really matches up well with the shape of the wrist, and I think it makes it wear like a thinner watch than it actually is. And I would say it wears true to its 38mm. It doesn't wear large or big. Let's take a look at it side by side, some other watches. First up, here it is alongside another 38mm sport watch, the Van Banner AO. Quick side note to AO owners, if you're also a PM owner, I switched the clasp over from my PM to my AO, and I really like the way it matches up with this bracelet and watch. Anyway, I think both of these watches wear pretty true to their 38mm. You'll see they both have very similar size dial openings, and that is what will account for that. Both again with 20mm bracelets that have a 2mm taper as well. Going down a little bit in size, here's the 36.5mm Traska commuter. And again, I think all these watches I have here today, I think wear pretty true to size. So you can see the 1.5mm difference here, slightly larger dial, slightly thinner bezel. And making up for the difference, but that's how they look. 4mm taper on that Traska looks really nice. But I gotta tell you, I tried a 4mm taper Jubilee on here, Jubilee, and I just found maybe this one's a little too jangly, but it didn't quite have enough weight on the underside of my wrist to counter the watch head. Lastly, here I have the Smiths. This is the Everest 36mm, and that's a true 36, and again, wears true to its size. You can clearly see that 2mm difference. This Smith wears really tiny, maybe even tinier than my other 36s, I feel like. I don't know, maybe that's not true, but anyway, here you can see how the two stack up to one another. And anytime a watch features C3 lume, I'm always excited to show it to you, even though it's kind of a minimal application here, this being more of a kind of skin diver sport watch, but let's take a look.
Keep the lume.
And there we go. As you can see, there is a ton of lume on those hands. Not quite so much on the dial, but it is plenty because those lume dots reflect off of those shiny, faceted, polished markers that sit right in front of them, creating a really cool effect. I always love C3 lume. Bonus footage. Gray dials can sometimes be very hard to strap, so I wanted to share a couple combos with you that I found that I really liked. First up, this is a watch steward in British racing khaki with his, I forget what he calls it, a Z or G-link clasp. Really nice. I like the way this color kind of matches up with the lume on the hands. What I've been wearing it on mostly, because of that butterfly, is this Watch Gecko Beads of Rice, which is a 20 to 18mm taper. But again, thanks to those tight gap there between the spring bars and the case, this actually matches up and looks really cool on it. One of the other combos I like is this gray Tropic from Barton's. I'm not sure I like this material these are made of, but I'll pop a picture up because this thing looks pretty cool on it as well. So there you go, the Seals Sea Storm fixed bezel. You know, when this watch first arrived, I wore it for like 7 days straight, which is unheard of for me. I continue to keep reaching for it. Obviously, I really like this watch. I fell for it from the first time they posted the renders on Instagram, so it's cool to finally have one in hand. It's a really nicely finished watch. If you want to check them out, I'll leave a link in the description. All right, before I let you go, sneaker check. Wearing some Jordan 1 mids for the first time all summer, and that's it. I'm out. It's not so much trouble. Please like, subscribe, and come back next time. Peace.